Hello, I'm Mr. Pibbles, and welcome back to our lovely little festive park project here in Planet Coaster 2. Yes, it's quite fun. This is going to be the last actual working episode of this series before we sit back and we take a look at everything that we have built. But for now, we are building, and what are we starting with? Well, in the last episode, we built our gingerbread dockyard alongside a gingerbread town square and the start of a gingerbread village. So today we are continuing on with this gingerbread village with a nice little gingerbread restaurant. So this is kind of making up the skyline, if you will, of this gingerbread village. And I had a bit of trouble getting everything to work in the correct way. You know, I tried, and then I tried again. And you will now see me in sped up real time, trying to figure out how to get this pathing system to work. But yes, so what I thought I'd do is I'd actually make a little restaurant. There's a couple of tables upstairs, and I thought I'd make it so the majority of the tables are down under the ground, because I thought that would be really interesting. It saves on upstairs space, because we don't have a lot of space in this park. So taking everything down just means that everything where it needs to be, which is very fun. And we've also stuck some toilets and a barrier there, so that there is a way in. And that is all fun. Now, what we're doing now is around the edge, we are now sticking these inside walls in, interior walls, if you will, downstairs. And I wanted this to feel a little bit like a basement. So we've got that sort of vibe going on. And then putting in this gingerbread floor. This is the one time I will be happy that snow covers everything in this game. Because now it just looks like there's floor there, and it is indistinguishable from everything else. So then coming in and just surrounding that with the gingerbread walls is absolutely perfect. And now we can start to put a roof on it. And this roof is coming in many different ways. So we've made it out so that there's, I believe, 4 different buildings as part of this. So you've got that first one, then you've got a small second one, and then you've got the third one with the heart roof, and then you've got the fourth one on the end. And I just thought this would be an interesting way to sort of, give you this nice little town square vibe by having all of these different buildings along here. And then just what we will do is we will add a lot of variety to all of this using the confectionery from the festive stuff, which is all very fun. And it is very exciting that I'm coming in and I'm playing around with all of this. And if you do want to give this park a look, it will be up on the Frontier Workshop the day after, either the day of or the day after I put the next video out, which will be within the next couple of days. But yes, so we are going back to using my absolute favourite, the chocolate dipped finger, as a construction beam, which, again, I just love the way that it looks as a construction beam on these gingerbread buildings. You wouldn't necessarily use it for an overly realistic build, but for something that's built entirely out of gingerbread, I suppose it doesn't do too bad at its job. And then obviously you can come in here and stick more of these down to get that frame structure that I absolutely love. I've used it all over this park. I've used it right at the entrance with our sort of slightly Bavarian style entrance, and the same over in our Christmas market for the station building for the mountain descent. And again, we're using, there we were using things like the wooden planks and beams and stuff like that, but here it's chocolatey fingers. I mean, what could be better than that? So then coming in here and just placing these down, again giving it that sort of structure, you can see that it's already starting to take shape, and it looks really, really nice. So, I am in no position to complain about this whatsoever. And then just sticking these doors down you know, again, it doesn't look too bad. And, yeah, putting the windows in, I think, is really what makes this actually look really, really nice, if I'm being completely honest. And then, obviously, on the inside, it's all a little mismatched and a little sad looking at the moment because it's just gingerbread. So we will indeed change that by sticking in these railings, using gingerbread and the tops, and then using some columns just to add a little bit of variety to the inside. And then by adding this gingerbread floor literally above everything, we have a ceiling on it now, which is really, really nice. And then just copying that over to there, we've properly sorted the kitchen, which is nice. And then coming up here, we are just placing windows across the whole thing. I decided to use one window because it would be the easiest. And then I did toy around with having this icing trim over the top of everything, but it just didn't exactly work for me. So instead, we are going to use the icicles across the top here. And it sort of gives it a bit of a glazed look, which I quite like. Obviously, you'd use this sort of stuff for building gingerbread houses in the real world, so that's all fun. Now, I wanted some lights, but the only festive lights we've got in the game are candles, and they don't give off enough light. But why would I use candles when I can use candles? Why would I use those festive candles when I can use this candle lamp on the wall, which gives off somewhat of a similar vibe? If a little bit more fiery and a little bit more whoosh, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So there we go, there is our first jump in the footage. Off camera, I completely finished that little area with some confectionery around the front, but we don't have time to dwell on it because we are making a junior roller coaster using the other thing that happened in Update 8, which was the child coaster return model being implemented, which I thought where better to use it than here. So we are building a nice little family boomerang coaster, and you may be wondering what is the theme behind this. Well, we are going to go for a minor bit of a, almost a candy farm theme, where, you know, you've got all of these different things. This all really stemmed from the idea of me sticking in a lollipop forest, and then a second bit, which will come in a sec, which is a marshmallow mine. And I had those two ideas, and I thought, well, how do I do that in a coaster? And I thought, actually, well, we've got the bobsled, and I don't necessarily want to do something big and massive because, you know, we've got this series, and, you know, it doesn't need to be majorly impressive. So let's do something small, hence the child's return coaster. And obviously we've finished it, but I'm not entirely happy with it. I think it could be just a little bit longer, so we're going to come in here and we're going to completely redo this turn here. Just blowing it out a bit, making it much larger, making it work a lot more for what it is. And you can see me here kind of trying to come in and connect these two bits. It will take way too long for me to actually finish this layout. So instead, we're going to cut the footage to it being done. You can see there that there's a lovely bank turn into that helix, and I think that all works quite well. And then copying the colour from the Jammy Dodger, we're going to make the track look like it's gingerbread, which I'm honestly such a fan of, because it just looks quite nice. And yeah, we are going to add our own little bits and pieces to this train. Now, the problem is, these confectionery pieces do not scale down as much as I wanted them to, which is slightly annoying because I would have loved to do sort of actually making the train out of gingerbread, but instead I had to settle for confectionery and these strawberry creams and chocolate buttons and everything, and most importantly these marshmallow twists, which we are going to stick down the side of all the cars, which I think does look a little silly, but I like it ultimately. You know, the last time I themed up one of these trains was for the Barnstormer in my challenge park, and this was a lot different to the idea of making a plane because obviously this isn't a plane, this is something made out of candy. Just don't ask me what it is. There we go, and sticking a pretzel on the back of the cars, and some lovely Smarties down, or, well, own brand Smarties down. We can then get to making the station, which is where really this idea of a gingerbread farm comes in, because the main thing that I wanted to do was have the coaster go through this gingerbread stable, because we've got these reindeer pieces in the game, these gingerbread reindeer pieces in the game, which I really like. The only problem behind that was then that I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which was to have the train sort of go at the back of the station, do a little bit of the layout, and then go through the stable before going into the lift. So I had to put the stable in the station, which I think does work quite well for what it is. Obviously you can see me here placing down all these stools, and then we are going to stick these deer in. Now I really like the way that first one is just looking over the edge, and then you've got just all of these other deer at different angles throughout that layout there, which does look quite nice. And then we start getting our roof on this. Now I had a very specific idea for what I wanted the roof to look like. I wanted to look very much like, you know, what you'd expect from the classic American style barn, or almost a Wild West style barn, where you've got, you know, the main bit, and then it goes up by a little bit before you get the upper end of the roof. And I know you'd probably have sort of a loft in the top bit. We don't have a loft in the top bit in this, but we make do with these 4-meter sloped roofs to get that, and then I get rid of them in favour of the double curve roof, because I think it just looks slightly more interesting for this project. So sticking that all down there, then we're going to stick in these circle cutout roofs, and again you can start to see this properly taking shape now, which is all very exciting. I love it when a project decides it wants to come together, and I think this all coming together like this now is just absolutely amazing. You know, I have had such fun working behind the scenes on this project, kind of making this Christmassy park with my little Christmas market, with the idea of making a bobsled coaster, with making a gingerbread village. I think it just all works quite well for what it is. Then coming in here and using more of these chocolatey dipped fingers for wood. Again, we are using them for more wood beams, but this time these wood beams are going to be interior beams and roofing beams. And you can see them here sort of going all the way across the station. And when viewed from below, you can see that it sort of has that sort of wooden beam feel that I'm going for. And then by sticking these almost triangular beams in, it doesn't work. So instead we're going to copy that across, make it a little bit higher, and then you've almost got that double sort of structure to it. And now that that is all done, we can now move to the outside of the of the barn, where we're going to use more of these chocolatey fingers. And what we're doing with them is we are making more beams, or at least we were making more beams, but we have had another jump in the footage, and we are now looking at actually theming up the ride itself. And we're starting with that aforementioned lollipop forest. So, you know, I saw these pieces and I was like, do I make a candy cane forest? Do I make a lollipop forest? And I decided on, actually, we'll make a lollipop forest. You know, it does look slightly bare bones at the moment, but it will look better, I promise. And then I had this other idea with these candy canes that I actually wanted to have the coaster go through them, which is slightly silly. But I think ultimately, there is not much clearance, but I think it's that not much clearance that really kind of adds to it. The only thing that's really at detriment is the marshmallows on the side. I believe one would call them flumps if one was using a brand name, but obviously we are not using brand names here, so instead they are confectionery twisty marshmallows. But yeah, it is all very interesting and fun stuff. Trying to get these just right, watching the coaster go through it, and obviously giving us that nice, sweet bonus, scenery bonus that we would have if we were playing the scenario mode. But we're not, so we don't need to worry about that, but I will still worry about making this the sweetest ride that I've ever tried to make. But yeah, it is all very fun stuff. Now that that's done, we could get a couple of smaller candy canes throughout this little bit, almost as if it's a small candy cane plantation. And then we will come in, and I had this idea of using these strawberry creams, or like they're almost like peppermint creams, and you always get peppermint in candy canes. So I thought, why not put some of these strawberry creams right in the centre of the house to almost make a column. And then you come over here, and just by copying it again, we can make it much taller, which is quite impressive. And then coming over here, just placing some of these macaroons down, macarons, some of these jammy dodgers, almost making them a subspecies in the lollipop forest of these biscuits. And then I had an idea with these wafers that we could almost make some bridges and some near-miss elements using the wafer biscuits, which was a very fun idea. So obviously I'm putting them down now. Yeah, you can see that it has that sort of near-miss quality to it, which is very fun. Now, you've probably been asking yourself, where is this marshmallow mine that I have spoken so highly of? It is here. This is our marshmallow mine. I was originally going to have it be a candy corn mine, but I thought, actually, there's so many marshmallows in this festive scenery pack that I might as well just make it a marshmallow mine. And I toyed around with a couple of different ground types, but I ended up on the strata rock, which I think looks quite nice, giving it that sort of mine quality. And then coming in and sticking these marshmallow twisties on the walls, almost as if they're other mine deposits. And now we can come in and place more of our chocolatey dipped fingers. I really like these pieces. They work really well for what they do. And by placing these down, copying them across, and doing all of that, what we can then do is line them up and make some mining beams. So if you take anything away from this little series, I hope that it is that these chocolatey fingers are very versatile at what they do. So, with all of those chocolatey beams out the way, we can then come in and place down all of these cross beams, just to really sort of make this pop, as it were. Which is very, very fun. You can see me here sticking these bits down, and then sticking them down some more, and just trying to line them up as best as I can. And then once that's all in, we can do some final liney-uppy, as it were. And there we go, we have a marshmallow mine. So, what do we do now? That is the question at hand. Well, we are going to come into here. We're going to find some lights so we can light this place up. Now, again, the only festive lights that we have are candles, and they don't really fit. So we are doing some of these pink orb lights from the sorcery pack, just so we can sort of give it that almost marshmallow quality. And then finally, we're going to come in here and we're going to make one final near-miss element out of these wafer rectangles. You know, I am really a fan of how all these wafer pieces look. You know, I've used them on buildings as cross-hatched bits and pieces and structural elements, and I think just sticking them in here as almost a bit of a almost a bit of a near-miss element, I quite like. And these Viennese fingers are just the perfect thing to come in, stick down, and finish it off. We're then coming in with these wafer straws. Again, they almost have that beam quality to them with some sour strips across the top. There we go. We have a ride. You can possibly see in the back that I have indeed gone and I've made a custom... Well, I'm not going to say custom supports for the lift hill at the other end, because that's really not what it is. But I've made a structure out of wafers just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode, in a bit we will be going back to real time, but if you have enjoyed this episode, then please feel free to comment, like, possibly even subscribe if I'm lucky enough, and I will see you in a moment in real time. Hello and welcome to the real-time segment for this episode. Now, we have got quite a bit done in today's episode. Obviously, we started off with this lovely little restaurant here with this nice downstairs area. That's all quite fun. And then we came in and we built this roller coaster here, this Child's Return coaster, kind of themed to this candy farm. Obviously, with these gingerbread reindeer here in the station, and then your lollipop forest, your candy cane ridge, and the marshmallow mine. And then coming round here, obviously you've got the photo booth at the end. So if you have enjoyed this episode, then please give me a like, give me a comment, give me a subscribe if I'm lucky enough, and I will see you in the next episode. Merry Christmas. Roll that outro.